7 or 8, I was sitting around the quilts because my mother and grandmother and their older sisters and stuff, that's where we got our conversations in at. That's where we got family time in. So I wasn't doing a lot of quilting, but I would sit there and they would teach, they was teaching me how to. And I would try and say, but I wasn't quilting at 8 or whatever, but I was just sitting there and trying. And they always had the patience to let us have a hand on, just sit there and enjoy it. And I enjoyed the company and stuff. So I started very early sitting around the quilt. But when I kind of learned how to quilt, I might have been a teenager, about 14 or 15, and that's when my grandmother, she wanted me to make the quilt with hand, but I just didn't like getting stuck with the needle so much, so I wouldn't do that. But when they put it up, like you lay it out and everybody quilts under there and stuff like that, I did a little of that and kept coming on up, getting older and older. And as I got older, and my mother had to take in one of her grandchild, and I had to help her, make a living for this child. So I was able to get in at the quilting bee at a very early age.
Well, I really didn't learn when I was like 7 or 8. My aunt used to let me play on her quilts because they would have the old quilts where you could roll them up in the top of the house at night and let them down, and in the daytime, and we would play under the quilts. And if it was a good quilt, she would let you quilt on it. But if it was one of her little quilts that she wanted to show off, she would take the stitches out. So that was like I said, 8 or 9. But when I really learned to quilt was back in '96. I started the Freedom Quilting Bee after I got laid off at the sewing factory. And I would go and I would do piecework, and I would leave. And so Mensie Pettway, that you just interviewed, she told me, she said, this is a co-op. And at a co-op, you have to learn every aspect of the job. You have to learn from fixing the machine, doing paperwork, payroll, quilting, everything. You had to learn all of it. So that's why I say I attribute my knowing how to quilt from Mensie Pettway.
They had that going around in the community, and they would quilt, just sit up, and that was how they visited each other. So just sitting there and watching my mom and quilt with other people, maybe at their house, maybe at her house when they had people to come over or whatever, and they would all, sit together and quilt. Yes, and like I said, it was also a way for us to get quilts to keep warm, but it was a connection. They kept that connection about meeting with each other because they didn't have the time to just stop, daily and go visit. So that was their visiting time. So I observed quite a bit of that from other people getting together to quilt. One would sew several blocks together, and maybe another one sewing more blocks together, and it would come together, and they would start to just put them all together as this one quilt until it'd be a complete quilt. So, and then they would probably set another time to get together and put it up and roll it. And we wrote at that time, you had the nails in the top of the house, and you had the 4 rafters, what we call the hoists or whatever, to put them out on. And at night they would roll that quilt up, and it would go up to the ceiling. And the next day or whatever, when they met to start quilting, they just rolled it down and started quilting it on. It stayed like that until that quilt was finished. Anyone that had a home and had a room, but mostly if I had a room because they know that was going to have to be needed. So during that time, everybody mostly had these old big houses, and you would have to have a room that, you could quilt in and stuff, and you might even have beds around there, but there was room in there to sit, put your quilt up and be able to sit there and still quilt, but it was in each other's homes. If you're a small child, it gave you time to play, because when they gathered together at each other's houses, it was mainly they wanted to talk about their stuff, children wanted to play, and it was really good. But just to know that we could sit with our parents, after we didn't get a lot of time with them during the day, it felt great. It was just letting you know that you was connected with somebody. So it was a great experience. They would go sort of early in the morning, 9 to maybe 3 o'clock in the evening or whatever. Sometime if they had that day, certain days like that, they was out of the field or whatever. So they would use their time. It could last for 6-7 hours at least.
as a kid, during that time, you couldn't stay in the house around adults and listen to them when they was talking. But when they was quilting, you got a chance sometimes to sneak under the quilt and you could listen to some of the stories that they would tell. So it was a lot of fun. It was fun then too.
I graduated in 1960, and I got married in 61. And when I got married, I moved down to the place not quilt from the old house, but not the Quilting Bee, but it's the same, but And so I was going over there when I was carrying my babies and whatnot, because the right over next door to me, I was walking distance from it. I've never been no more than, I told him here to join this girl who was at the corner there, from walking to the bee. So that's why I was so innocent, loved it so, because I didn't had to go to Selma. I didn't believe I could make it to Selma in the morning time while they were driving. Heck, that didn't work, So I just really stayed down and been there ever since.
As a young girl, I think I was at least 17 years old when I started working at the corporate. And I did it in the summertime because at the time I was still in school, but I had a niece and my mom wasn't getting a lot of finances and stuff, at home. So I would go down there in the summer and they would let me pill around and do little things. And I learned to make quite a few things there. But I started very young, around 17.
I joined the Freedom Quilting Bee in 1996.
It's in an old house down below where the Quilting Bee is now. And the people was come from different places, because I live way up here about 2 miles from down there, down where we, in the old house. And Estelle Witherspoon and Eugene Witherspoon, they were, it's an old place house that they had. And so they decided to try to get it, organized. So we worked in that house until 1965, I believe. Then before we come to the building at the Bee. Yeah, that was the year Martin Luther King helped to get the building there. We still didn't know that we were going to come to, to getting to be, a place of our own, I said like that. But it was real,
My mom or grandma, they would visit. There would be several more women from around that would meet there, and they would sit up. And so I, at the time being little, I thought it was just something to get together to have fun, because they did a lot of laughing and talking and stuff. But yeah, I remember being at Sister Witherspoon's house several times with my mom, because where the mama had to go, children had to go also. So we were just there, but we would play and they would quilt.
Yeah, I was there when they cut the ribbon for the bee where it is now. So many people didn't have anywhere to go in different places, and they were about to get something going. They was very rejoiced over.
Oh yes, it was so excited, I guess, until the night before. It was like even hard to sleep and rest, because really we were getting a chance to see different people come in, and something was about to happen right in Alberta. Where we lived, there was something grand that was going to be going on. And not knowing really what a groundbreaking was, we just wanted to be there to see what was a groundbreaking. So to be there, it was very exciting.
At the sewing factory, you couldn't talk anything at the sewing factory, because you get to yell way over to another person. But at the quilting bee, we were sitting face to face. Even if your machines, you were sitting one here, or somebody facing you on your machine. And when you're on the quilt, you quit. So we used to could just talk about anything. Sometimes we talk about our personal things, and we would gossip about other people's business. You know how women get together. So it was just like a family thing. It wasn't like at a sewing factory where you didn't want everybody to know your business. There were some things we told each other, and we knew it wouldn't go any further.
Oh yes, it was friendly. It was spiritual. We had people that came in that would sing old Negro hymns all day and talk, and they made sure that everybody there felt wanted and loved, and they was going to get you involved. I grew up very shy, But they even, it helped to bring me out a lot. And I've seen others that come seeing, don't have a lot to say, but before you leave the quilting bee, you was going to be enjoying. You were going to be happy for that day. So, yeah, it was a lot of getting together.
We used to have lunch, and sometimes we'd be around the sewing machine and saying we'd have regular prayer service, before we go into lunch. Just about some of the ladies would, because we would bring our food in this woman in the kitchen most of the time. And so we went from there. My mother and I worked with when she was there doing the cutting of the material. I worked with her right beside her until she, went home and she had a stroke. And so she never come back to work there no more. And so until the quilting bee was closed, I was the cutter. Oh yeah, because like you said, some of them was real slow on different things, and so you had to move them to, and bring somebody else over to help do what they was doing, because you couldn't discriminate against them because everybody was just, this one body had to be.
Yeah. Even if it was, you had to be told to try and speed it up, or you got to go a little fast. They were saying in a way that made you, you didn't feel put down or whatever. So it was nobody, in other places that I worked in, it's a hostile environment, and, and people say things to try and hurt your feeling. But because these ladies hadn't been through so much themselves, they knew how to treat people and how to talk to them and get us up to doing things. I know sometimes they was pushing me a lot of time to try and get it better or do it better, and I might have got upset. But before I left, I appreciate, them encouraging me to keep going and to move a little faster and stuff like that. But yeah, it was very sweet and nice in there.
That's the mentality that I had when I went, that if I can't quilt, they'll let me do something else. So, but no, wait, that wasn't in the plan for me. The plan for me was to go and learn to sew, because I have a daughter that worked there, and she could cut. We have a cloth saw, and she could cut. She never made quilts, but then she learned to quilt. But I always say that it was my destiny to go to the quilting bee when I did, learn to quilt, because I didn't want to do it. I hated it, and I didn't want to do it. And Mensie told me that matter of fact, I quit one day, but they called me back. And then Mensie told me I had to learn to do everything there if I could. That it made a difference. So look where I am now. I've gotten a chance to, like I said, go places that I never thought I could go. Hawaii, different places, just for quilts. Not for anything else, not for just vacation, but because of my quilts. So I just think that was my destiny, to go to the quilting bee at the time that I did. And making me feel like I guess you wouldn't talk to an adult the way she talked to me. You would, like she was talking to a child, and by her being older, I listened. And I stayed, because I could have easily quit. But I stayed, and I learned how to do it. So it was very much so valuable.
Some of them had never been on Social Security, away from Social Security. But after all, they finally got it into the bill, to the organization.
Yes, so they received money. A lot of our women had never really had money in their hand. If they had a husband, he might have been able to make a little something there, get something. But to receive a check with your name on it, that was so important then. It was very important to them, during that time. So I would say that was a big part of it, and that's what they liked it a whole lot. They was able to get things in their homes that they wasn't, we couldn't buy. Washing machines and TVs, and just to keep, your children with shoes on each year to go to school. It's proud to know. It's proud to be a part of that, and to know that our women's and older women's at that time that knew nothing more than taking care of a house, milking cows, going to field, and they built a place to go to work, and was able to get some money, from that. I'm very proud of that, of our people.
it makes me think that anything is possible. I really think anything is possible. If they could do it at that time, I should be able to, at least do something. Like right now, I sew by myself, but every once in a while, I can hire maybe 2 people, maybe 3 people to help me out. So it makes me feel good that it hasn't gone down, that it still goes on.
To be reborn again, and a lot of stuff that we know can happen, but I'm hoping that we have enough people to want to get in to push it forward and see more than just the quilting going on in there, whatever, We want to see information given out and teach our young people way of life and other, I just so much I would like to see, but I would like to see it strive in a bigger way than what we had going on in those days. When I married, we did our reception there, and that was another thing we did use the quilting bee for. You could use it for any function that you wanted to. So the quilting bee served as a community center during that time. It served as so many things. But yes, we did get married at church, but our reception was held at the quilting bee, and not only mass, but so many more people had their reception there. They had baby showers there and reunions and all. So yeah, the quilting bee was used for a lot, and that's so important to get it back open and going again.
Some of the plans are, like I said, a learning center. We have I think it's like 13 acres of land that's still there, could be developed to do something with. We're not sure. Then maybe they can cut the timber and kind of help finish fixing the building, but we definitely want a daycare because we don't have one of those in this area. Like I said, we want a learning center. And the most of all, we just want to make sure we carry on the heritage of the quilting, because those women fought so hard at that difficult time to get that bee. And it would be a shame to see the building, if the building go down. I hate seeing the building just go to waste when it could be so much more if we just all work together. So quite a few of us have gotten together, and we're trying to work on doing that right now.
I hope that it'll, get back like it was and better, you know what I'm saying? To me, it was good.